All right. Well, we're actually not quite at 5:30 yet. We'll call it close enough to 5:30. I'll call tonight's EDA meeting to order. And could we get a roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Lord.
Here.
Commissioner Husnack.
Here.
Commissioner Grindal.
Here.
Commissioner Hoyt.
Here.
And President Bain.
Here. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just quick administrative note, I'd just like to take a moment and recognize our interim administrator, Christina Hant, and this is her first EDA meeting and opportunity to welcome her. And I know you all will have an opportunity to meet her and work with her in the future. So welcome, glad you're here. We have a minor update to the agenda. If I could propose an update before we approve the agenda, could we move the closed session and staff updates? Could we just swap those so we'll have the closed session at the very end of the meeting? And with that, I would propose that the EDA approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our agenda is approved. Our next item this evening is to approve the minutes from our regular meeting on January 8th, 2024. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our minutes are approved. Our next item is to walk through the 2024-2025 draft EDA work plan development. And Abby, I believe you're walking us through this.
I'm actually going to pass it over just to Chris Ng, given the fact that he had helped us with some of that work plan SWOT analysis.
Very good. Hey, Chris.
Thank you, President Bain and members. Good afternoon. I'm going to start out, but please, Abby, feel free to jump in, and Christine as well. We did have a chance to meet and talk about the goals as a team, staff, before we brought it back to you and made sure that what we were presenting is realistic and relevant. And I know, just to start out with, we started back in October with a SWOT analysis, and then we listed the goals in December. And then we were going to come back in January, but we're going through a little bit of a transition now. So I want to make sure that when we produce these goals, they're still relevant and realistic, and truthfully, that we can get to all these goals. We want to be able to come back and check off the goals as we accomplish them. So that you're going to see some deliverables and some action steps, but please feel free to provide any feedback. If we didn't hear what you were trying to convey during the planning part of this, please let us know and we can modify this as we go. Okay, with that being said, I'm just going to jump right into the goals. The first goal, and these are not in order, these are just goals that we're going to accomplish over the next 2 years, so 24, 25, and then probably re-evaluate this in January of 26 again. So goal number 1, review public finance assistance policies and procedures, and then make recommendations to the City Council. There's really a couple different components there. We're going to be looking at the business subsidy policies, the tax increment financing policies, tax abatement policies, and then any other incentive policies that we've already started to talk a little bit about, for instance, forgivable loans, those types of things. And we'll continue to work on those throughout the year. By the end of this year, we should have all of those approved, or at least have recommendations made to the council for consideration and approval. And there really isn't any cost for that, it's just staff time. The next action step under that goal is to work on identifying potential uses of the new housing funds. We anticipate, and Abby, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere in the range of about $300,000 will be coming to the city for housing purposes. And so one of the things that the EDA will be asked to do is to decide, how do we want to use those dollars? What is the best use of those dollars? And that will require some policies and some consideration that the EDA will make to the City Council. Did I miss anything, or did Abby and I not capture what you were thinking about when we were talking about that particular goal? Okay. All right, I'm going to move along then to goal number 2. And goal number 2 was to do some studies and look for additional opportunities for growth. We did kind of combine some of these. If you remember the goals upstairs, when we did our work session in December, we listed a whole bunch of things and then we ranked them. And what we tried to do is combine the ones that were similar in nature and come up with a goal and then build action steps and deliverables around that goal. So the first action step within this goal is to look at the southwest area, look at some infrastructure studies, do some planning, some potential developments. There will be some funding available through the CDA, through the EPA grant, and also through the pre-development fund if you choose to use those dollars. So we would be a partner with you on doing some planning in conjunction with that area to see what would be the best use of those dollars. How do you get infrastructure there to serve any businesses, or what are some of the infrastructure needs and what would it cost to get them? So that one, we anticipate that will start in the first quarter of 2024, and we think that probably sometime mid-year we should be complete with that goal. And again, we'll partner with you on helping to pay for those studies. The next action step is to refine and promote and implement the downtown plan. We did a really good job getting started, but there's some additional work to do, and that did come up as a pretty high priority in the ranking system. So we want to make sure that we're addressing those needs and identifying opportunities going forward. So continuing to work on the shoreline rehabilitation and boat launch relocation project, determining the downtown priorities. EDA will certainly weigh in on that. And then working with local businesses and landowners to discuss downtown needs. We'll be continuing to, that'll be an ongoing activity. No cost for that, it's staff time. And we probably will begin second quarter and we'll continue all the way probably throughout the entire plan, probably through the 2020. A lot of opportunities in the downtown. Another action step would be to continue to promote the business incentive programs. This is a $5,000 forgivable loan that the EDA makes for improvements in the downtown area, and continue to work with applications as they come in. So we'll for consideration as we receive them, and that'll be ongoing. Did we miss anything in that area? Overall goal? Okay. Goal number 3, continuing down the list, is to support marketing efforts in the sale of the development of the Headwaters 123-acre site. This one was another high priority. It rose to the top almost. Number 1, I think, was the. So we'll look at bringing, maybe through some type of a working session or strategizing session, work group, whatever you call it, but defining and building consensus. What do you want this to look like? What does success look like on that 123 acres? We've talked about it being, used for commercial purposes for technology businesses, like a data center, for example. Is that still the goal of the EDA and the City Council? And then if it is, making sure that we're building consensus around those goals and making sure that everybody's on the same page. Is there another opportunity? Is there something else you want to look at completely different than what we've talked about? Those will be something that staff will work with you on to define those goals and define what success looks like in that area. EDA will conduct an RFP once we've determined what the is for that area, what the goal would be for that 123 acres. Then it's really easy to conduct an RFP, to send out RFPs to developers and site selectors and builders and realtors and say, if you know of people that are interested in partnering with the city to help us develop and sell this land, would you come forward with a proposal? And then it's up to the EDA and the City Council to review the proposals, select a development proposal that you really like, and then certainly see if you can work. So we're anticipating that will be second quarter, third and fourth quarter of 2025. So that's out there a little bit. So there's some planning that has to happen first. And then I think, if I remember President Bain, you might have worded it better than I did, but to have that property sold, I think, in 3 years was one of the main goals. And so that's kind of where we're trying to get to, but we got to make sure that we're building consensus and making sure that the vision is common, on the same page. Okay, and then the next action step, continuing right now anyway to market it to technology businesses like a data center or high-tech manufacturing type company. High wage paying jobs is what we're looking for right now. So continuing to work with the Minnesota Technology Corridor on the marketing, and that will involve going through different opportunities, including the Minnesota Real Estate Journal. There's a data center summit coming up in a couple of months. There's a land development summit. There's Industrial Development Summit coming up in November, and then in October is the Minnesota Commercial Realtors Association has had annual expo in Minneapolis, and that is usually well attended. So we'll bring information and literature, and if you want to have a banner or some information out on the Minnesota technology. By the way, this is the only publicly owned site in the Minnesota Technology Corridor. So. Then the next action step, partner with Washington County CDA on real estate development conferences, and we just talked a little bit about some of those ones that are coming up. All right, so one more thing I do want to mention is that we did talk about expanding events as one of the goals, and Abby, do you want to touch base on that one? I believe you talked in that. An opportunity for the EDA members to weigh in on how you want to be involved with those.
Sure, I know that the EDA is mentioned, and then also in the downtown plan, the just additional programming throughout the community in the downtown area, expanding events. The city staff has been looking at events over the last year. We do actually have right now about 35 public events throughout the city throughout the year that do take considerable public resources. And so as the city continues to look at what those events are and how we can help facilitate events in our community, staff is a little leery to have a goal of continuing to create more. Instead, what we're doing is we're looking at some of the opportunities for refining our policies and procedures for review, looking at how we can partner. And one of those ways that we've even just partnered in the last year is with the chamber and their new website, and making sure that our community events are getting promoted throughout the community and out into the, in the region. Also with the digital billboard, we found that even our local events like Arts in the Park have just expanded exponentially. The amount of visitors have expanded exponentially. So we were a little reluctant to focus on a goal on events when there are other partners and other groups within the city kind of looking at those specifically. I'll continue to update you though as we work on that, city staff with the council.
Missed anything or didn't capture some of the goals or action steps that you think should be included in here? Now would be a really good chance for you to provide input, and we can certainly amend it and come back for final consideration.
As we open that up, just to confirm, we're talking about a timeline for 2 years, right? 2024, 2025?
Yep.
So
honestly, there's a lot in here in that 2-year period, so we're going to
Right.
be working hard to get this done in 2 years. So.
yeah, I think it's just a great opportunity, and just process-wise, so the plan is, so get input from EDA tonight on the plan, and then the plan goes to council for a working session, is that right as well?
That would be the next step, is to bring the work plan. If the council or the EDA says, yep, this is what we'd like to do, go to the council and make sure that we're all on the same page. And we'd probably, I don't know if we need to bring a work plan back for formal, EDA, yay, we're doing this. But essentially after council's blessing, we'd start kind of working on how do we scope out some of these projects to make sure we can get them accomplished in the next 2 years.
I think just from a point of practice, it's helpful for us to vote on that plan and to formally adopt that plan. Even though all of us in this room might be like believing we're all on the same page and working in the right direction, it does become a document that kind of memorializes the decision, puts it in black and white, and then certainly that plan can be adopted if there's other initiatives, but it forces us to weigh other initiatives to resources or what might need to come off the plan if we're going to shuffle some priorities. So I would encourage us, once we have council's feedback, to bring it back for formal EDA adoption. But that said, with that process in mind, I guess now is a great time to just think about, to make sure that the things that you want to be working on in the next 2 years are reflective on this document, because it's certainly going to be what's going to be driving staff's proactive time. You'll note that in the plan, there's space for reaction to opportunities that come to us, but this would certainly reflect the proactive activities that staff is taking. So that's kind of a good time to just make sure we're aligned. So how are we doing on completeness? Does it seem like complete and prioritized?
I think we got a good start. You don't want to overdo it and lose our goal, sight of our goal. So I think we had a pretty good start on things and it's manageable, it's something that we can achieve.
Make one note, because I think we did talk about it when we were brainstorming upstairs, and maybe it just didn't float to the top. And I see it's on the agenda, and I know I've missed the last meeting, but transportation, something that, especially sort of cross-county, but yet are kind of, that come and utilize our community services and businesses, that not float to the top in terms of needs or a goal or anything?
Commissioner Grundle, we didn't, that one did not float to the top.
Okay.
So we tried to, and again, tried to be realistic and relevant to making sure that we could get to these goals and accomplish them and check them off. That one didn't rise to the level to include it. Not that it's not important and not that we shouldn't be keeping that in the back of our mind and working on opportunities for that. It's just that we really need to be able to grasp what are the top 3 that we can get to this year.
I just didn't know where it fell in the priority order. What we,
I think one of the challenges in particular for transportation, and the staff memo that's in our packet does a nice job of like identifying the different parties involved. We're not a funding source to receive most of those regional, or any of those regional funds that, so it would be, you know, we can have a lot of motivation, but the ultimately the funding to what it would take, it would need to be general levy funded, and just such a gap from where we are that I don't want to get ahead of Abby's staff report on this topic, but it kind of identifies also like the number of different parties that are involved, and I think we're a participant in that conversation, but actually having the ability, certainly the financial resources to drive it, we're really limited in what we're able to do. But certainly needs to, Chris said it well, which is it's on radar and certainly a foundational challenge. We're gonna have a very similar conversation around housing, to be frank, but we've got at least got a little bit of state dollars now with some grant money to play with, but again, it's just the tip of the iceberg, so. Ed?
What I didn't see, and maybe it's included in the downtown plan working, is the branding that thought was kind of important. Was that not in the top?
So we probably would look at that as an action step and find that a little bit more so we can make some notes around that.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out logo or slogan, continuity in road signs, street signs, something that makes us unique.
I know, I can just say that while we talked about it, it didn't really rise to the top 5. So we had, everybody did their dots, and the top 5 really focused on planning for future growth, the headwaters, policy procedure development. We really tried to consolidate them down into those 3 goals. While there were other things like transportation and events, that wasn't one of them that necessarily weighted the heaviest. I'm not saying that that's not important. It's just right now, you know, really focusing my efforts, because as a reminder, I am your only staff, to make sure that what we do in these next 2 years really do help set a good foundation and help kind of keep us moving in a way we can all agree with. So.
Okay, I hate to be a pain, but the branding in communication with the would they be like in the background?
I do think that as an organization, as a city, that is something that is, I think, an ongoing conversation. We are right now with an interim administrator, but we do have the opportunity with a new administrator and the council to kind of look at some of those ongoing communication efforts. I think it's larger than just the EDA. Personally, I think that it is a city with a capital C, and it spans multiple divisions, commissions, council. So I think that we can keep that at the forefront, or keep that involved in conversations as the council and administration work to improve their relationship and strategies. definitely carry that over into those arenas for future conversation.
I don't want to leave this because it comes up routinely. What would those next, so when you talk about branding, are you referring to like logo and slogan, or is it more of a broader communication, like getting the word out about community events and promotion of the city?
It's like White Bear Lake does an excellent job, and so does Stillwater. You think of those towns, and you think of what the logo is for the town and what's on the storefronts and the bridge, and you immediately think of those as a destination. And using that branding on have a cohesiveness, and we had talked at one point about road signs when the gentleman or the company that was working with us on
Signage.
They had talked about for the old part of the town
Yes.
signage.
Wayfinding. And that is still memorialized in the downtown plan. So we do have a placeholder in, we reference, the, maybe the place for this indirectly is where in our current work plan where we talk about setting priorities for the downtown plan, it'll naturally be considered there. And I think as we talked about sequencing of the downtown plan, some of those wayfinding, there were items in the downtown plan that were city-led, city proactive, and there were areas that were going to be non-city-led, and the city was in a supportive role. And some of that branding, wayfinding signage was in an area that was to be considered in more near term. So maybe we do indirectly have some linkage to some work being done there. Because I agree with you that it is an area that if we're not doing it either as an EDA or as a city, no one else is going to do it, and it is important. So I'm glad you bring it up and keep it on top of mind. I think naturally the downtown area is probably an area where we would address that next, but that does open up some bigger questions around just city signage, and we've talked at the council level as well on, for example, project of 97. Ryan will correct me on where this landed, but with the 97 project happening at the state, between the freeway and 61, we've talked about whether there's an opportunity for a monument sign for the city at that location. So it comes up routinely. I think it needs to continue to come up because it's important. Other thoughts on areas that might not be spelled out as explicitly as we would want or prioritized like we would want? Do you think about other priorities for 2024, 2025?
That's okay. This is really the 5 that we looked at as being number, correct order. I do agree with the other ones, but so.
The only other thing that kind of comes to mind fits into this catch-all bucket of downtown redevelopment. And so anything I might want to do more specific would be in that bucket. And I know we've not funded that plan. We've not identified outside of some, current projects in place right now related to maybe the shoreline study. That plan is largely unfunded. And so I know in our work plan, we're going to talk about some of those priorities. And I think we should make it a goal that we prioritize those conversations early enough in the year that if we wanted to make an ask of council for some 2025 funding, we need to have that identified by this summer. At least at a large 30,000 foot, we need to have a target. If we don't identify a budget target, there won't be anything that happens in 2025, and we're now talking at 2026. So that's going to be right around the corner here. So having some thoughts on that sooner rather than later, I think would be good.
Maybe one recommendation if I could make to the EDA is some of these things are going to be checked off this year. And so maybe accomplish this, this, and this. Maybe that's when we can add some of the things we do that are still important.
Right.
hard stop at 25, maybe we do 25, 26 or something to that effect. And it gives you a little bit of time for budget planning and to address some of the priorities that we didn't quite get to that are still important for the EDA.
President Benny, if I might just, I think what I hear you saying is when we're talking about 2025 priorities and we talk about downtown redevelopment, having the conversation early in 24 for potential funding needed in
Correct.
25. I certainly can put that on as an agenda item in the second quarter that we
Yeah.
can start looking at that. And that maybe we just revisit that every 6 months. Again, are we doing what we need to do? My only concern is that we don't necessarily deter too much from the work plan, that we're just chasing the next 6 month shiny penny. We're not actually getting done with the work plan.
Yeah.
So, but I
Right.
think I can bring that back to you, that we can have those conversations early this year, because I agree with you. One of the challenges we have with that downtown plan is with no funding, how do we get those things done? I will note, and I'll provide an update here, I am always in conversations with landowners, with developers about redevelopment, about development downtown. So those are ongoing things that happen that this body doesn't necessarily see. You don't really see it until maybe there's an ask or something ends up on the planning commission agenda. But those are ongoing activities that the collective we are doing through me. And I'll get better as we kind of keep working on this, at giving you those updates as they come about.
And so since we've cracked open this conversation about budget for next year, another good time to think about those additional things that we might want to do. We really need to get those thoughts penciled in at the council level this summer so that they can be included for consideration. So we've got to be kind of thinking 18 months in advance. So tonight's goal was to provide feedback. Any other points of feedback before we conclude? Abby, Chris, do you have what you need of us? Any follow-ups?
I do. There might be a couple little like timeline tweaks before this comes back to you, just to make sure we're not kind of overloading ourselves in any one quarter in the next couple of years. I'll bring this to the council and hopefully at their next meeting, so that by your first meeting in March, they'll be ready to adopt it and really start looking at implementing this work plan.
Okay, so let's move into the update section of our agenda. And first is Abby with city update and specifically the public transportation follow-up.
I did include in your packet some minutes, meeting notes. So our local Rotary has made it a goal this year to focus on potential public transportation options for seniors in the Forest Lake area. They encouraged the city to host a meeting with other state and local, federal or state, county governments to talk about transportation options. We recently had a follow-up meeting, and these are the notes of that follow-up meeting a couple weeks ago. Lots of people involved, the YMCA and nonprofits, state, county, and Met Council city staff, also our adjacent community staff, elected officials, really kind of looking at potential transportation options. I included this in here so that you know that there's conversations that are going on. The county right now is starting a kind of long-range transportation planning process. Part of that is to help guide them with some funding that they may be receiving from the that they will be receiving from the state that could be used for transportation. As of right now, the options are still pretty limited for transportation in Forest Lake and our adjacent communities, but I wanted to let you at least all know that there are conversations happening, and staff will continue to stay near those conversations. We might not be spearheading those conversations in the future, though.
Just a quick follow-up. I was able to attend this meeting. It was really helpful. It was really enlightening to see that this, in particular, there's a couple of private groups or nonprofits that are actively involved in providing microtransit option. And I was really in particular impressed by the organization Community Thread and what they are already doing in Stillwater and their ability to expand that footprint. I think there's some interesting opportunities that are just very nimble, market-driven, that allow for the solution to be provided. Also, they have a lovely volunteer model that's really attractive. It was kind of it was refreshing of while the different jurisdictions try to figure out their space in a really challenging environment, right? Transportation has just changed, and it's challenging that there's this nonprofit that's already essentially doing it, and able to and open to expanding their footprint. So it was just a very so a lot of times you leave a meeting, you're like, oh my gosh, there's a good answer, and this was one where there's a good answer. So it was happy to hear.
And if I might just expand on that, Community Thread is looking for local volunteers in the Forest Lake area, actually anything north of Highway 96, to help service that program. They're looking for 15 to 20 transportation or volunteers, people willing to give rides to other people in our area. So if you want more information, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share that, pass that information on to you.
Have a footprint of like 50 years of experience of doing similar services. So they've been doing this for a long time. So it was a good, they've got a good model, and it's a nice expansion opportunity. So
Just to tag on to that, I think what the other challenge for our area is that there isn't a lot of Uber or, accessibility here that you might have if you're a little closer in to the metro area. So there just isn't a whole lot of accessibility for folks. I mean, I know that's not, you said, we have a voice at the table, but it's not like we're driving it, but.
A couple other just quick updates. I met last week with the new owners, or the owners of the soon-to-be Zucamaya, a Latin fusion cuisine restaurant that will be located in the Fireside building, or the former Fireside building. They intend to convert the entire property, so lower level, 3 levels up, for the restaurant to, for it all to be the restaurant. They have also purchased the old theater property downtown. When they purchased that property downtown, they were told that they had to tear down the building. So I have met with them and told them that there was no order to tear down the building, but that there are some risks with them tearing down the building without another plan, and that we really want to make sure that we have a good, solid plan for what will be there afterwards. I think that they would really like to have the opportunity to open up what I will now refer to as the Zucamaya building instead of the Fireside building. But at the same time, they are open to potentially partnering if there are options for rehabilitation, redevelopment. I have put them in touch with some different points of contact that I have had in my past life working with development, as well as their neighbors on the other side, the little single-story building that Paddle North, or the owners of Paddle North, currently own. So I'm hopeful that there might be some partnership opportunities for redevelopment in this area. Know that they are aware that the condition of the building is of concern to the city and the community, city with a capital C, community with a little c, but that we want to be strategic because we could potentially help fund redevelopment there, or the demolition of the building, or when I say we could help by securing county or state funding for the redevelopment. But we want to make sure that that timing is kind of consistent with development approaches for funding. So that I'd let you all know that. The only other thing I'd let you know, this weekend, Karen Moorhead, I see she's on the phone, on the line today. Rotary plunges this weekend. That has been initially was approved by the council to be on ice. Unfortunately, emergency management had to revoke that approval, but they will be doing it in the parking lot near Lakeside Memorial Park. And then also to put on your future calendar, the city's Spring Fling event. That's a family-friendly, fun event located in the fire hall, is set for April 27th. So those are 2 community events coming up in the next couple months.
thank you, Abby. Any questions for Abby? All right, Chris?
Thank you, President Bain and members. I don't have any formal updates, but I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Questions for Chris? Nanette in the chamber.
Okay, I do have a few other events that I'll just bring mention to too, as well, I should say. So we have set a date for the Easter egg hunt, and I'm in partnership with city and some other folks, just kind of getting that wrapped up. And so that'll be Saturday, March 23rd. Snow, rain pending, who knows, right? Could be anything at this point. And then our Lakes Area Expo is on again at Maranatha Church on Saturday, April 6th. So we're in the process of securing our vendors and sponsors for that. And then talking about community events, the chamber has decided to partner with Mallards and Lakes Floral with the Lake Fest Street Dance. So that will be on Saturday, July 20th. And we'll be at Mallards. And then the boat races are on that Saturday as well. So again, just a lot of activity to help drive folks to Forest Lake and all the participating businesses in the area. So it'll look a little bit different, building on that a little bit more, but so that's already, band was secured today. I think the deposit check went out today. So aside from that, a lot of events. We are visiting businesses as well, and so we'll continue to do that, both members and non-members, and I think that's it. So unless you have any other questions for me?
Any questions for Nan? All right, thank you. Ryan, any updates for EDA tonight?
I suppose we should probably talk about all the transportation projects that are going to be happening in the area between now and 2024, and really in this area till 28, how they're going to affect access and that over time. So in 24, you're going to have Washington County State Aid Highway 33 or Everton Avenue by Menards and all the way down to where the new pavement begins. So they're going to start on the south end and work north with that project in 24. But there will be, it'll be done in stages, but there'll be, you won't be able to drive all the way through that roadway into pretty much the entire summer, but we'll have it open up at certain intersections and stuff like that. They've coordinated with all the property owners multiple times, so they should all be well aware of that project. Obviously, they'll have a construction representative too. They're still working out a lot of details with the Broadway Avenue maintenance project. So we had a public open house with that project. Nobody showed up other than a friend of the project manager at Washington County. But then on the backside, they were still kind of working through staging with MnDOTs, because with concrete work, you got significant delays in reopening the work that you just completed by the cure time and stuff like that. And if you have too many stages or changing traffic control around, you're going to confuse the drivers too. So long story short, they came back with and had a meeting with the city, and we're like, whoa, this was not communicated at all. They totally had westbound Broadway shut down all the way from Broadway to basically Culver's area. But still, we're working through a lot of things with MnDOT, because the bridge closure that was going to occur was going to then obviously be pushing traffic back on the ramp. So they've been doing a lot of additional work, and upon request, we're having another meeting with them February 20th to discuss where they're at on some of that stuff, and they will be coming to a city council workshop and presenting that. So 24 is going to start off pretty busy on some of your major corridors. 25 will be the reconstruction of Eureka Avenue, plus the MnDOT starting their Highway 97 project. Highway 97 on the west side from the Divergent Diamond to Everton will be closed because the amount of muck that has to be dug out of there, it'll be 20 feet of muck in some areas. So to even try to keep that open under traffic, there's just no stability. There's no area there otherwise, because we're in wetlands on both sides of that road. So, and because of that project and trying to stage other things in the area, they're going to push that to a 2-year project. So that'll be 25, 26 now. So the east side of the Highway 97 will be done in 26. With that, we were supposed to start County State Aid Highway 32 or 11th Avenue right here by Winnick and then out to the bridge. That was supposed to be a 26 project. I would anticipate that it's going to get moved to 27 just to keep more routes around the area for emergency medical, school, and all the businesses too. Just there's a lot of that going on. But then the Highway 8 project will be starting. They're going to let that project in 2025 now. That'll be a 26, 7, and 8 project. So that will be a major, probably one of the biggest recons in this area that you guys will actually see in your lifetime. It'll be comparable to the construction of what I-35 looked like coming up. So you got that going on, and then even outside of this area, there's the Osceola Bridge is gonna be down in 26. That's a 2-year project. So there's, our footprint is pretty big, and then they're talking about Highway 65 in Blaine, the interchange, and starting in 26 too. So when you think about what this area is gonna look by 2028, 29, we're already then going down to County Road 50, and the potential next project will be in that particular area. So a lot of stuff going on, but when you do these transportation projects, they do seem to somehow just attract things instantly right behind it, if not within it. So it's a pro and con kind of situation, but it's much needed infrastructure improvements.
Brian, could you touch a little bit on the local streets coming up here too? I mean, is whatever you got going?
Yep, so we got a lot of local street projects going on. The city council did increase the budget, so we're gonna be able to go a lot further than we have in the past. Most of those projects are being, pavement replacements, spot curb repairs here and there, storm sewer repairs if we need to. Public Works goes out and televises the sanitary sewer just to see if we have any spot repairs that need to be completed at that time that we're doing these street pavement maintenance projects. We do not get into any water main replacements unless there's a very bad situation known, but the areas that we're in either don't have water main or it was put in the 90s in PVC. So still got plenty of life on that, and trying to avoid watershed rules. So if we do go in and do a full recon in a residential neighborhood, we then have to now all of a sudden find areas to do additional ponding and stormwater improvements. And worst case scenario, sometimes you are taking a property to do that. That's just for reference, 12th Street, where 12th Street meets County Road there on the south end. City in the past, when they were moving forward on a recon on 12th Street there in 2009, purchased those 2 homes and removed them so that we'll have future ponding in that area in the future. So those are some of the things we got going on. The larger scale, the city's looking at some work along North Shore, but financing still to be determined. I think we're going to talk about some of that tonight in the city council with legislative bonding priorities potentially. Also with these co-op agreement projects that I talk about, when I say co-op agreement project, that's a common term you'll hear. That's when the city is doing a project with the county or the state. In this case, that the county's leading the project, but we're still it's a co-op agreement project. There's a local share in those projects, and they're pretty significant local share, to the point where actually chasing bonding bill money for County Road Stated 32 or 11th Avenue because of the amount of local share that's would being required with that, and potential realignment of North Shore or Forest Road. Instead of coming out to the county road and then having only a right-in, right-outs as the county originally proposed and went through a bunch of additional public outreach, we're now proposing to realign that into a roundabout at 4th. So you would have a intersection improvement that would help the school district too to get in and out of traffic. It will help flow along the county road, and then full access for the residents that live all along here to the west. So, but with these local share projects, we typically, if they're spread out long enough, we can use our construction state aid funds. There's just too many too close together, and that the cost is too high. So the city's all applied for grants, applied for the local road improvement grants already for this project, and we're also then working with a lobbyist through the county on chasing additional funding for that too.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you.
It was a lot. Any questions for Ryan on specific to upcoming projects? All right. That being, I believe we're at the end of our planned agenda short of the closed session. Is that right? All right. We are ready to move into closed session. And so I would motion that the EDA move into a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D05 subdivision 3C3 to develop or consider offers or counteroffers for the purchase or sale of Lot 1, Block 2, Northern Pacific Edition, Washington County, Minnesota. Is there a second? Take
I
second.
couldn't get it off.
Sam,
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Council, Member Husnick has the second this evening. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and we're in closed session. Okay, we've completed our closed session, so I would move that council open the open meeting portion of our session. Is there a second? Motion and a second from Councilmember Husnick. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and our meeting is open. I would move that the EDA adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Take a second from Member Lorge, and we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and we're adjourned. Good night, everyone.